So welcome to the podcast series, Real Talk. Real Talk is a discussion-based series engaging with real people about real issues that are prevalent or prevailing in our world. These real issues are causing believers in Yeshua to stop, reflect, and consider how they are to tackle them. They will challenge our own stance as believers in Yeshua as to where we are. Where are we on the spectrum of love and mercy and justice as we seek to engage these people of our world? I want to welcome my panel to tonight's series, and I'd like to actually invite them all to tell you their name and where they're from, and then we're going to move into our discussion for this evening. So maybe we could start right at the top. Thank you.
Hi, I'm Esther and I'm from Blythe.
Hi, I'm Asher and I'm from Nottingham.
Hi, I'm Roger and I'm from Nottingham.
Hello, I'm Rose and I'm from London.
And I'm Fiona and I'm from Nottingham.
Thank you. The other question that I want us to discuss today, and that's just, and actually, brothers, I know you're not, this is probably all about the women, but I would like your opinions just about abortion. I want to just read this research. So it says here, a controversial subject outside of the church and within the church. Still, a majority of Christians are pro-life, but the subject remains a controversial one within the church, especially when it comes to the arguments that pro-life should mean more than simply pro-birth. In what situation should informed women be free to choose to have an abortion? All, none, or some? And that's the question I want to put to you. In what situation should informed women be free to choose to have an abortion? All, none, or some? And then the second question, is the practice of safe sex promoting contraceptive usage and availability acceptable? Ladies, who wants to venture to respond to that? Let me just say this. So July 5th, let me just get my glasses, sorry. July 5th, the abortion lobby were going to attempt to introduce abortion up to birth in England and Wales via the amendment to the Police Crime Etc. bill. They were going to introduce that so you could have an abortion right up to 9 months. And the question is, how do we feel about that?
Right, I just say my little bit. I really feel for, I haven't known anyone, but I've watched television programs where maybe a woman is pregnant and found out that she's going to have a really disabled child and have the choice, you know, can choose whether to have an abortion or not. Mm-hmm. My heart goes out to a person, I don't know what that's like, but my heart really goes out to people. But my opinion is that as soon as the egg is fertilized, there is life. And from that point, and I don't say it lightly because I've not been in situations. Do you know what I mean? I've not been in that situation. So I don't say it lightly, but I do believe as soon as that happens, there is life. So I don't even think that the after morning pill should be taken, because I think that is wrong. That's what I think, because I think life is from the very, very start and is sacred.
What if, I'm just putting in.
Go for it.
What if a woman's raped? What do you think about that?
I struggle. I've got to be honest, I really struggle with this because I know of people who have been raped and have had a terrible time. Some of them have had their children and others haven't, but the ones who have had the children, they have lived with this awful, awful thing, replaying and replaying and replaying. And that then transfers onto the child, because the child then doesn't feel as though they're really loved, cared for, and all kinds of things. And I know Yeshua can do miracles and he's a wonder and he's a marvel and all of that. But at the end of the day, I'm being very real. And I don't know if that happened to me, whether I would say, I'm not going to get an abortion. I know the scriptures and I know what Esther's saying about life is sacred and all of that. I do understand all that. But when it comes down to something like that, I struggle big time struggle. And similarly, what you just said about somebody who's going to have a very disabled child who cannot do a thing for themselves, impacts your life, impacts, you know, it's hard. It's hard. The ones I say no to are people who go out, very promiscuous, have sex anytime, anywhere, have children, well, get pregnant and then go and have an abortion. That to me is no, it's just not right. And I you know, I can categorically say there's certain things I would just say no to, but for the rape and for the severely disabled, I struggle. I really struggle. And that's where I am at with all of this.
Thank you. Thank you for sharing. While Fiona's just unmuting, is it, I'm asking us, sex one time, does that literally mean you are pregnant? Because Esther's already mentioned the morning after pill. So you have sex tonight, you go tomorrow, you have the morning after pill. It's a preventative, isn't it? It isn't necessarily that you're having a child. We don't know that at that stage. But that to me is another thing completely, rather than an abortion. Do we agree?
You're asking a lot of questions
You
here,
could be
Dad.
pregnant. Sorry, you could be pregnant, and you could be getting rid of that child.
But we don't know, though, do we? At
We
that
don't know, but
stage.
that's the possibility.
Thank you. Yeah,
Yeah,
you're the on the panel. You're the lady that's had the children.
I didn't want to point that out, so I'm glad you did. I think I've got so many different thoughts about abortion because, like Jasmine was saying, you know, women that are raped, it's such a difficult thing, and I'd never judge anybody ever, especially in that circumstance. And like with the disabled children, you know, I'm sure the law states that you can terminate a pregnancy if your fetus is disabled up to 36 weeks. And
So can I just,
to me,
just one question. I believe you take a test when you're a lady of an over a certain age. I think it's 36, isn't it? To confirm whether the child is got Down syndrome or something like that. Yeah. Anyway, go on.
Yeah, that's only for Down syndrome, though, not anything else.
Right.
So if the child's going to have severe heart conditions or anything like that, you can terminate that pregnancy up to 36 weeks.
Right.
Now that turns my stomach because I've had 2 children, and I know, you know, when you're having a baby and you're following the apps and you're finding out how big your child is and have they got eyelashes and how have they got fingernails, and are they dreaming at this point? And you find out all this information, you know, that child is alive. And to terminate it so late in the day, to me, it's terrible. Whatever your personal choice is, that the reality of it is terrible. I think I personally do, generally speaking, disagree with abortions, because to me, as soon as that egg is fertilized, it's alive. That's how I feel. When my husband and I were trying for children, I realized very quickly I've got no control over whether I conceive or not. That's a gift given to me from Yahweh, and you know, Yahweh set things in place that if a man and a woman come together, if the timing's right and things are released at the right time, there will be a conception. And if Yahweh's put that in place, I don't feel like we have the right to then take that apart. I think it's very, very emotive, and it's such a personal decision, because obviously not everybody believes the same thing. And I can understand why people might want abortions. And a friend of mine the other day was telling me about somebody she knows who Jasmine was kind of describing, a similar lifestyle, goes out, gets absolutely drunk, sleeps with any guy, doesn't really care, and has a convenience abortion. And it turns my friend's stomach. She can't stand it, because she's yearning for a child, but waiting to get married and have all these things in the right place. And that side of things I disagree with. There's a lot of things I disagree with on the line, like the morning after pill. It's just a quick abortion type of thing to me. That's how I see it. It's an easy way to have one. It's so difficult, because everybody lives their life differently. But if we're talking about according to the word and as believers, we don't have a right to take somebody's life. We don't have the right to take our own life, you know. But yeah, it's very difficult. Like Jasmine was saying, if something happened to her and she was pregnant, she can't say whether she would or wouldn't have an abortion. I would like to say I would never, but I can't categorically say if I was in that situation that I would never, because it's living with that choice, isn't it? It's living with what has happened to you, seeing it in the child, how that affects your child, and you can get deliverance, but that poor child has got to then work through all those issues throughout their life to get deliverance themselves. So it's a very, 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 very difficult thing. So yeah, that's my 10 pence.
Can I've got multiple thoughts on this. Overall, I think it depends on the situation, because you've got some women who get pregnant and the pregnancy is detrimental to their lives. And so therefore, one of the only things that the doctors can do then is take the child, because it's the child's life or their life. In that way, I think it's a different thing. Secondly, what Esther says about life starting from the fertilization, kind of agree with her, because I've worked for years in a fertility clinic and my eyes were open wide as to what goes on. And I have asked myself the question, and I've asked people, and nobody seems to know, because there are lots of embryos, fertilized embryos, that are in freezers or wherever it is in these fertility clinics that gets destroyed, because a lot of people, they have their eggs frozen and whatever, and then they decide that they don't want it, or they've got one set of children and they've got loads of other eggs, fertilized eggs there, but they decide now that they don't want to have anymore, and they sign a form that says please destroy them. So what is that? Is that also abortion? Is that murder? Well, how do we look at that? So this is what I'm saying. There are various things that we look at, and sometimes you say, because somebody is having a severely disabled child, they're going to, and they have an abortion, it's wrong. A life is a life, and it's Yahweh's right to take life and whatever. But if somebody feels that the quality of life, that is the other thing, is the quality of life of this child is going to be zero, It is how fair is it on them? How fair is it on that child to bring that child into this world? And if that child is going to have a life of constant pain, if that child is going to have a life where it can't do anything for itself, it has no idea what day of the week it is, they have no idea that you're the parent, is it fair to bring that child here? So these are the kind of thoughts that I say I have when I say it's conflicting, the various thoughts that I have around it and the reasons why one would choose to have an abortion. I'm not saying I am for abortion or whatever, but I'd like to say, look at the different reasons why one would want to go down this avenue before you kind of say, you know, whatever. I was about to say condemn them, but I won't use that word.
It's interesting. Like I said, I haven't got personal experience of a severely disabled child, but it's interesting. For example, I don't know if you've seen DIY SOS, when they help a family do their house up, make their house bigger, and a lot of the time they have children who are really disabled. And I was struck by a mother who and the brothers who were just like, we're so thankful for our little brother. We love him so much. You know what I mean? They were so glad that he was born and that they wouldn't be the people they were if he hadn't come into their lives. I'm not saying it's just a tough one. I totally agree. But yeah, this mother was absolutely devoted to a little boy.
One of my friends has got a little boy, and he was I think it was something ruptured when she was giving birth, and this little boy came out severely disabled, got cerebral palsy and lots of other complications. But she is devoted to him, devoted to that little boy. I suppose because it was giving birth to him, it wasn't before that it came into the world, and her life centres around her boy. He's in and out of Queen's Hospital regularly, you know, and bless her, she always texts me and said, Dasli, pray, please pray, you know, because she will be absolutely broken when he passes. But their whole family is centered around his little boy's name's Isaac. He's just gorgeous. But yes, I don't have any answers. I don't say anything's right or wrong. I think I would clearly say promiscuous living and having sex and then aborting the child because of that is completely against Yahweh's standard, against Yahweh's wills for anybody to be doing that. And I think I believe that we will give an account for what we have done when we stand before the Maker in the life that we have taken. But I do want to bring maybe just scripture for you. Jeremiah 1, the word of Yahweh came to me saying, before I formed you in the womb, I knew you. And I mean, I've read that scripture a million times, but I think over the last couple of days, I've read that with true new understanding. Before, you know, he formed Jeremiah, and the same with Isaiah 49 verse 1. It's about calling from the womb. So anybody that says there is no life, I beg to differ according to the scriptures, because it's almost like it's preconception before you've even got to that place. I called you, I knew you. So there's almost the sense that pro-life is pro-life. It's that's it, isn't it? It's top of the agenda. And what we would say to people, I don't really know, but I'm going to let Fiona jump in because she's just unmuted, and then I'm going to come back to something.
It was just go off the back of that scripture, you know, what you've just quoted there in Jeremiah, and just going back to the point I didn't make was, you know, when we were trying for children, and praying about it, and obviously knowing that it was Yahweh that ultimately that had control over that, and seeing, going from not being pregnant to being pregnant, to the child growing, to giving birth, and then you've got this blank canvas, as it would seem, and seeing a child grow and learn before your eyes, and develop a personality, and then develop an opinion, and, you know, give you back chat and don't tidy up, and all of these things, you see this whole person form. And for sake of argument, when somebody has an abortion out of convenience, because they've been living a promiscuous life, you know, you take away that opportunity for that person to be whatever it is they were going to be. And I just don't think that's right. I think in that circumstance with promiscuous living, I mean, I hear what Rose is saying and about all these different situations, and I don't think there's an easy or definitive answer, really, because it's so difficult. But I think that Yahweh gives life. He gives the personality, he gives the traits, he gives the skills, he gives the talents to that being before it's even come out of the womb, because I don't think my children got their gifts and talents after they were born. I think they're woven into the person that they are, because Yahweh is the giver of life. He knew us. How can you know somebody before if you don't give them their personality? Am I making sense here?
Yeah,
I hope I am.
yeah, absolutely. Because that's one of the scriptures. You know, we've got it was Abraham. One of his wives or Jacob, give me a child, and they said, "Am I Yahweh that I can do this? I can't give you what Yahweh is not giving you." You know, you have to. It's Yahweh that provides life. You know, and are we in a position to take that life once He's provided it, or He gives life? Wow, that's quite enormous, isn't it? It's quite enormous for anybody to want to take life. I want to just go back to something that Jasmine said, and I think a couple of you mentioned, and I'll share this, and I keep it simple, but and because my mum's passed, I can share it comfortably. But my mum was raped. My mum was raped and brought my sister into the world, and and I, as far as I'm concerned, I would chastise my mum and say my sister was her favorite. And my mum would say, I haven't got any favorite. Yes, you have. But I, you know, when you look back over your life, because it's in hindsight, you look back and you can reflect. And I do wonder if there was a level of loving that child more because of the circumstances in which she was brought into the world. So I'm just giving you a spin to that story, because I need you to see that it's not as terrible as that is, and as horrific as that can be for many people. And I'm not talking, you know, when we think about rape, there's the spectrum of people truly abusing you, and there's the spectrum of no, and they don't want to say no, they want to continue, right? So there's quite a vast difference of rape, isn't there? So it's about actually no, and they don't hear you, no, and they don't hear you, and then that happens, and it's not consensual, is it? Right? So on that basis, I'm saying it's not impossible. That's what I want to say. I really need to get that. It's not impossible if you are a child of Yahweh and something like that happens. Father forbid that happens to any one of us, but He knows us, and He's able to give us the grace to go through whatever trauma, whatever difficulties, however difficult. And it blows my mind that children can be brought into the world in that way, but that they can still be loved and still be cared for, and life could almost be that you wouldn't know, but life is still good, you know. So I don't want to just leave it all as being a terrible thing. So you don't have to take life because of the way things have led you to bring that child into the world. I don't know if that's the only solution. but there is a lot of healing that comes with that. There's a lot of pain and a lot of stuff that has to be unfolded as you bring that child into the world, as you grow with that child, etc., etc. But I'm going to close up now because I've 5 or 10 minutes. But I suppose one of the things I do want to say in closing off this subject, I believe Yahweh's heart is pro-life. He gives life. He is the giver of life. He is not only the giver of natural life, but he's the giver of new life as well. And he is such a father. He has a heart towards his children always. And one of the things that you read in the scriptures in Proverbs 31:8, in Proverbs 3:27, you know, he speaks up for those who have no voice. You know, and it's for me, that's such a comforting thought that Yahweh is mindful of the fatherless and the widows and the orphans and the people who are destitute, whose lives have rolled out and meted them out a terrible deal. And he himself comes down, as it were, to be that person who speaks up for that person, who takes control of that life and sets that person on a good road to recovering, healing, and restoration. And we as believers in Yeshua also need to speak up for those who have no voice, you know, the marginalized. You know, we've talked on 2 subjects today, and surely the overriding thought that we want to our listeners to hear is that actually it's love and love and love, and no condemnation. There is no condemnation to those that are in Messiah, and for those that come to him, he accepts with open arms, just as we are, with same-sex marriages, with identities that we're not sure of, with uncertainty, with all kinds of things. And he is the giver of life. And he just wants us to have life. And actually, if we come to him, he's prepared to give us new life, which secures a life in the future for us. So I want to thank my panel today for just being really open and honest, and for sharing the things that they've shared. And I trust that you as a viewer who's watching this will just really receive something from this. We offer Yeshua to you because he is the life giver. And if you come to him, he'll not turn you away.